November 2022. Cristiano Ronaldo, legend of the game, is going through a not-so-nice time at Old Trafford. Rumors of his agent, Jorge Mendes, shopping him around and desperately searching for a way out flood the internet. But despite all the rumors and the supposedly widely cast net, no meaningful bites. Not in Europe, at least. There were other rumors though. Rumors that were a tad more outlandish. Too outlandish to ever come to fruition, many thought. Saudi Arabia? 200 million euros per year? No way. Yes way. This is one of the most high-profile signings ever. Not just because it's Cristiano Ronaldo and the guy is very high up there amongst the most famous people on the planet. I mean, more followers on Instagram than any other person tells you that much. This transfer was a statement of intent. Saudi Arabia are aggressively in the hunt for star power to help boost the profile of their domestic league. And it seems to be working. They have our attention. The second most followed person on Instagram was offered an even bigger deal after that, reportedly over 400 million euros per year for 3 years. In case you were wondering, that's more than one Newcastle United per year. As you can see, it's all connected. Now, while Lionel Messi rejected this deal so he could take his talents down to South Beach, countless others are jumping at the chance to cash in on this golden opportunity. Karim Benzema, N'Golo Kante, potentially Bernardo Silva, Sergio Ramos, Riyad Mahrez, Ruben Neves, every Chelsea player in existence. And even further to that, Messi not going that way isn't as big of a rejection as you may think. He's still an ambassador for tourism in Saudi Arabia, posting several pictures and reels to his social platforms. If we all remember, his previous employers, PSG, weren't too happy with that. He's estimated to be making 30 million euros per year from that deal alone, close to his reported base salary at PSG. So, there's that. What is going on? Is this the right move by Saudi Arabia? Or is it just another impending failed push to grab eyeballs and relevancy? While circumstances do vary, it's certainly not the first time that we've seen something like this. Perhaps not to this magnitude, but the concept remains. Let's talk about it. Yo, what is going on everyone? Really hope you're all doing well. I'm Tinashe, welcome back to the channel. This entire Saudi Arabia situation is, rightly so, subject to a lot of speculation, suspicion, and skepticism. By the way, I realize I don't ask you guys this enough, but if you wouldn't mind giving me a follow on either Instagram or Twitter, or both, that'd be pretty cool. Helps me grow this whole thing, but if not, super chilled. Let's get into it. In a project financed by the incredible wealth of the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia's public investment fund, comical money is being dished out to increase the prestige of the domestic league. If you do a quick search online, you'll see that the quoted estimated net worth of this fund hovers around $700 billion. But as many would probably point out, we could never truly tell the real value of this fund. These guys are minted. Who would have thought that oil was lucrative? But perhaps that's where the catch truly lies. To ensure the prosperity of the nation going forward, diversity in the kingdom's economy is absolutely necessary. Tourism has been earmarked as an industry that the country would like to scale as much as possible. As per the kingdom's overall future goals, they would like tourism to account for 10% of its GDP by 2030. In 2022, Saudi Arabia hosted about 16 million visitors, a number that they hope will jump to 100 million by 2030. No matter whether you think that 8 years is a long time or a short time, a more than 6-fold increase is a pretty tall ask, right? How do you even go about working towards these goals? Well, the simple answer is that you make the trip worth the effort. High-end hotels, celebrity chef-led restaurants, concerts and festivals, prize fights, high-profile sporting events, and much, much more. Formula One is heavily in the mix, and as recently as June 2023, the merging of the PGA Tour, PGA European Tour, and the PIF-owned LIV Golf Tour. After years of clashing, this merger almost came out of nowhere and shocked the world of golf. LIV Golf, originally a PGA Tour competitor, founded in 2021, has received its fair share of criticism. Legitimacy, lack of prestige, and alleged sports washing all form some of the reasons for this. Quite notably, all-time great Tiger Woods isn't much of a fan. Dude turned down over $700 million to become part of the organization. The market share that Saudi Arabia is trying to snap up across the global sporting sphere seems to have no end. It's It's kind of like a list of Manchester City fullbacks since 2008, which brings us to the sport that this channel is dedicated to. It shouldn't be surprising to many that Saudi Arabia is a football-crazy nation. I mean, you don't really have to look too far to verify this. We can look to the most recent 2022 World Cup to see the hugely audible support that the nation received there. He's in Miami, bro. We've already seen the PIF purchase Newcastle United in the Premier League. As we all know, they are now a Champions League team. They are investors in Clearlake Capital, the company that owns Chelsea too, a fact that has been tightly wrapped in controversy over the past few weeks. Several Chelsea players have been offloaded to Saudi Arabian teams recently, and many suspect foul play. However, that's yet to be proven, so perhaps it's just a coincidence. Saudi Arabia have been very busy when it comes to their domestic league. Reports indicate that they're trying to supercharge the profiles of their big four teams with massive cash injections for marquee players: Al Ittihad, Al Nasser, Al Ahly, and Al Hilal. This is in conjunction with the PIF signing a 20-year commercial agreement with these four clubs, requiring them to play matches in newly constructed entertainment complexes, among other stipulations. It's also been said that the ultimate intention with this initial stage is to secure 3 top foreign players for each of the big four teams and another 8 for the remaining 12 in the league. This kind of aggressive expansion of a league outside of the historically top leagues in the world is crazy, but it's not unprecedented. I'm sure very many of you remember when Chinese clubs were attempting to supercharge their rosters by implementing similar strategies. In the mid-2010s, Chinese Super League clubs offered very attractive contracts and transfer fees to several high-profile players in Europe. Understandably, a lot of players couldn't say no. Oscar, Graziano Pelle, Carlos Tevez, Alexandre Pato, the list goes on. When I made the decision to come here, I was thinking more of my family than of my career. Oscar, who left Chelsea for Shanghai Port back in 2016 for £67 million, while still only being 26 and also still highly regarded in European football, had this to say about his move. And honestly, a 4-year contract worth £400,000 per week is still something that any footballer earning less than that would not turn down, and there aren't a whole lot of footballers that are earning more than that. Let's put it at that. However, this period ultimately turned out to be problematic. First of all, the Chinese Football Association were eager to boost the profile of Chinese football on a global stage, as well as local talent. The frequent signings of expensive, high-profile players was seen as something that was growth stunting. A 100% tax on player signings over €5 million was implemented, rulings decreasing the number of non-Chinese players allowed on a team were implemented, clubs were forced to drop corporate names in favor of neutral ones, significantly decreasing the marketing potential of those corporations. It soon became very inconvenient to continue with the spending. Many other problems, including mediocre infrastructure, facilities, and youth systems, at least in comparison to their European counterparts, meant that there was very little progress to be shown for all the millions that was spent. I was on holiday for 7 months in China. It's fine for the Shanghai coach and presidents to criticize me. I didn't know what I was doing there. Carlos Tevez almost definitely was not the only player that felt this way. Going over for a check and not feeling motivated to make a difference. €40 million per year in his case. 4 goals scored in 16 appearances. 10 million per goal. What a life. Financial instability for many of the owners and investors in Chinese Super League clubs, the pandemic, and many of the other factors we've already mentioned pretty much led to the end of this crazy period. In fact, Jiangsu FC, a club founded in 1958, was purchased by Suning Holdings in 2015. In 2020, they won the CSL for the first time in their history. And then, in 2021, before the season even began, folded. This came after the club experienced major financial issues and was even up for sale at one point for a single cent. No takers. So this certainly wasn't a successful experiment. And even though many of the factors are unrelated, the current predicament that we find ourselves in right now begs the question, how is what's happening right now with Saudi Arabia any different? I guess first things first, Saudi Arabia has a lot of money to invest. They've allocated a heck of a lot more for their project than Chinese clubs did, that's for sure. Also, this is a project being financed by the Public Investment Fund, basically the government itself. not private companies. Many of the restrictions that made it near impossible to continue with the spending in China could still apply. I mean, who knows? The PIF could switch up their strategy, leaving the clubs in limbo and with no money to pay their guys. But it seems like that's less likely to happen in this case. According to Sky Sports, within the next 5 years, Saudi Arabia want to have 100 of the top players in the world playing in their league. According to Cristiano Ronaldo, the league has heaps of potential.
For the next 5 years, I think the Saudi League can be in the 5th in the world.
What we can all see, clear as day, is that the people behind this project are deadly serious. Who will they go for next? I doubt it just stops at high-profile players with large followings. I can definitely see one of these clubs offering an up-and-coming and highly sought-after youth player a metric crap ton to come over and play for a couple of years, after which that player will happily accept this large sum, knowing that they could return to Europe later on and still have their whole career ahead of them at the top level. Only difference will be that they would have sorted out their entire family bloodline upon their return and still potentially be in their early 20s. I highly doubt that that line of thinking hasn't crossed the minds of many top players once they picked up a paper and read the headlines lately. Okay, now all of that is well and good, but before we wrap this one up, we gotta address two things. The first one is from a purely footballing perspective, and the second one is a tad more sinister. Here's the thing, and I'm just gonna be honest here. Even if they manage to bring all the best players in the world over and manage to attract major eyeballs, this entire project will probably always have a major asterisk to its name. This entire thing is shaping up to be a spectacle, but at the same time, I'm not entirely sure how emotionally invested fans around the world will be. But then again, maybe that's not the point. Maybe the point is the eyeballs and that alone. Football fans are snobs. Yes, I'm talking to you and myself. We're obsessed with history, with prestige, with social proof. It is probably a little bit silly in some ways, but new money, if not received through the traditional pathways of, let's say, playing really good football and being rewarded for that, is always going to be looked down upon, even if it brings success. Chelsea fans are still being called plastic 20 years after their major takeover, even though they were pretty successful before Abramovich in the first place. Look at Manchester City, treble winners. I repeat, treble winners. Yet several non-City fans will likely never view them as a legitimate, organic, elite team. In 1999, this team was playing in the 3rd division. Now they're the best team in the world, in the conversation for the best EPL team ever, maybe even beyond that. I repeat, treble winners, but with over 100 alleged financial violations hanging over their head, plus questions over the morals and ethics of the owners, this is a convoluted mess, and all of these factors play a part in the general conversation. A similar story goes with PSG, I guess. The gap is getting too large. The financial situation does not allow us to compete with other clubs. Am I expected to close the gap myself? My car is a small Japanese sedan, and I'm somehow expected to race against Lamborghinis and Ferraris. If I don't win, then I'm bad? This is not logical. The words of Al-Shabaab president Khalid al-Baltan, a team outside of the Big Four in the Saudi League. To which every league other than the EPL replied, "First time?" And then we have the point that everybody wants to point out, but that nobody really wants to point out. In recent memory, the last time that such a large global audience paid this much attention to the goings-ons in Saudi Arabia was in 2018. Outspoken Washington Post journalist Jamal Khashoggi was killed by Saudi government agents in the Saudi consulate in Istanbul. News that reached every corner of the planet. It's impossible to research anything that has to do with this predicament and not come across mentions of a questionable human rights record, a historical mistreatment of women, and, much more. Saudi Arabia's main opponents have labeled their bold strategy as nothing other than sports washing, the use of sports to hide or rather distract far more sinister affairs. Right now, if you mention Saudi Arabia in a conversation, the first thing that'll come to mind for a lot of people is Cristiano Ronaldo, Live Golf, and Newcastle United. I guess the strategy's working if that's the case. Of course, there has also been talk of a push to host the 2030 or 2034 World Cup. We seem to still be in the early stages of what looks to be a very long-term plan, so anything can happen. We could see a monumental collapse, the prestige of the league could be elevated to record heights, or we could see nothing happen. Nothing at all. No significant change. Time will have to tell. And there we have it. Let me know what you guys think about the situation. Feel free to follow all the socials, the links are in the description. That's all for me today. Hope you guys enjoyed. Hope you're having a great day. Cheers, and I will catch you in the next one.